Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Hope you come back often. Hope you tell your friends about us. As you can see, I've been to the dentist. I now have temporary teeth in the front, so I don't have the gaping hole that I did last week. And before we start the show tonight, I'd like to introduce Father Ron Walters for the show's prayer.
Almighty God, just as our models imitate the beauty of your creation, may we imitate your kindness and generosity to us in our relationship with others. Bless us now and always. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father. We appreciate everything that you do for our show. Now I'd like to run the sponsors video, which is Brennan's Model Railroading.
For over 25 years, Brennan's Model Railroading has been offering unique products for the O-scale market. Our flagship product, Brennan's Better Ballast, was an instant hit and continues to be the industry leader. Its prototypical size and natural color blend of real crushed granite make it the choice for discerning modelers. Since then, we've developed a complementary line of natural ground cover materials. Additionally, we offer craftsman kits that anyone can build with complete photographically illustrated instructions that assume you've never done this before. The Sonky Wenky Coffee Company is the latest and the fourth kit to be added to our ongoing and highly popular limited edition Ellison Tribute series. These kits take Ellison's scratch-built iconic structures to a new level with dentist spin. The idea being that if Frank were alive today, this is how we would build these models using modern methods and materials. Use the QR code to visit our website.
And for any of you that are too young and don't know, Frank Ellison was the father of model railroading back in the 40s and early 50s. He was the person that everybody wanted to railroad just like his. And it's great that Dennis has reproduced some of his kits, and hopefully we'll do some more. Well, now I want to introduce Phil Edholm. Phil is chairman of the Pacific Coast Region's 2024 convention out in California, and he's come up with a unique program for it. While it's a physical convention, it's also going to be a virtual convention. And I'd like for Phil to tell you about it and how everybody on New Tracks can participate in it. So Phil, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. I'm just getting something lined up here so I can talk at the same time as showing something. So I think a while back I talked about the convention we're doing out in California. And, it's a regional convention, but it's kind of unique because there hasn't been a convention in the area in 8 years. And there are some pretty amazing layouts. It's kind of as I got back into model railroading, I began to realize how many people actually that you hear about actually came from out here in California in this area. So it's pretty interesting. But what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about not the physical convention. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But first, what I wanted to do is talk about the virtual convention we're putting together. So the convention is actually the 24th to the 28th of April. And I'll talk a bit more about the convention out in California. But what we're doing is we're going to do on the 25th to the 27th, which is basically Thursday through Saturday. We're going to do a virtual convention. So I know some of you were able to go to the 2021 virtual national convention, NMRA convention. That was a convention that was, I think, had 650 attendees. And actually, people felt some ways like a better convention than a physical convention, because you were able to go there without, getting on a plane and flying. There were people that were never able to go to conventions before that were able to go. In the 3 years since then, it's 2024 now, this has been 3 years, we really haven't seen something the same happen. And so what we're trying to do is really recreate a virtual convention that has a different feel than going to a Zoom meeting. So just kind of what we're going to put in from a content perspective is there's going to be a clinic track, which will have 15 of the clinics. There will be 45 clinics in total. There will be 15 clinics that will be in the clinic track. We're actually going to engage everyone that's going to the virtual convention as to which clinics they'd like to see in the virtual clinic room. So those will be presented in a room. They'll be done by video. John and Sydney Abiticola are producing that. They were very much the folks who produced the 2021 convention. So you can kind of see the times there from an East Coast perspective. It starts fairly late in the morning and ends fairly late at night, but there's quite a bit of content that'll happen there. We'll also add in some special events. We're going to tour the contest room with a couple of our MMRs, and they'll talk about the models, especially the ones that are being judged, a bit about what their overall impression of the model is, what could be done to improve it, what are the things that could potentially be negatives for it. They're not going to actually do a judging there, but rather talk about it for folks to understand how to improve their models in a contest room. We have two live prototype tours. One is the Society for the Preservation of Carter Railroad Resources, which, for those of you who are astute, would realize that SPCRR stands for South Pacific Coast Railroad. The Carter brothers was actually a couple of brothers back in the late 1800s that built most of the narrow gauge cars out in California. They had a big facility. They built all the cars for the South Pacific Coast, the North Pacific Coast, the Nevada County narrow gauge, etc. So this is a group that's actually getting those cars and rebuilding them and restoring them. So we're going to have a shop tour and a yard tour, and there's some pretty cool things they're rebuilding. The other one we're going to do is Niles Canyon, which is I'll call it a tourist restoration railroad out here. They have some pretty amazing different equipment, rolling stock, et cetera, that they built together over about 35 years. We're going to do a yard tour and a shop tour there. One of these they have intercept. They have the only Klaus Maffei engine, the German diesel hydraulic engines that were bought by the Denver Rio Grande and Southern Pacific. They actually have one of those they're rebuilding. So we actually get to see those kind of things in the shop tour. Really cool shop tours. What we're going to do is we're going to actually have someone go on those tours with a connection into the Zoom meeting. And so you'll be able to actually, participate and go see the prototype tours that are in California, even if you're sitting in Virginia. Jim and I have worked on doing a New Tracks virtual train show. We're going to have 9 or 10 vendors that'll be basically doing some presentations during the breaks in the regular clinic tracks, but they'll also be available in breakout rooms. So one of the things that we found that in the convention we did in 21, what made it different was, if you think about this meeting, you come to this meeting, you sit there, you listen, you get done, and you go home. We created this concept that you moved around between spaces. So we're going to have a number of breakout rooms. And the idea is that there will be what we call a great hall. So this is what place you come to. It's a place where you just can hang out, you can talk to other people. And then from there, you can go to essentially other rooms. So this begins to feel a lot more like a real convention than it does like a video meeting on Zoom. So for example, you can jump out of there into a clinic room breakout. You can come back here. There will be a number of special interest breakouts. These will be typically in the afternoon when the clinics aren't going. We have O scale, N scale. I think we're going to have the narrow gauge folks. We should have the SIG groups. There will be a SIG focus for both the operations and the LD SIG. And then we'll have topical breakouts, dead rail, California railroads, women in model railroading, or your interest. You can just bring something up. We'll survey everyone who's coming. And then finally, we'll have this New Tracks virtual train show vendor focus, which will happen associated with the clinics, but will be essentially a separate thing. And then on Saturday, we're actually going to have a New Tracks focus in the afternoon, where Jim and some of the New Tracks presenters are going to do some real focused, cool New Tracks content. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time. And basically, if you look at it, what we've tried to do is two things. We try to take as much as we can of a physical convention and replicate it virtually. So we've got, a part of the clinics. We have the prototype tours, kind of you can ride along with them. We've got the contest room where you can check it out. We have the virtual train show, which will be also shown in the in-person convention. There are a number of layouts. The layouts on tour are videoable on video. That's one of the things you lose. We're trying to look at doing some operating sessions with the Silicon Valley lines, but you really don't get operating sessions. You really don't get the non-rail activities because obviously you're probably not bringing your spouse. You won't be a part of the vendor and swap meet area. You won't get the banquet and breakfast. But the really good news is you can meet people and be in the environment. So we think it's a great way to actually get out and do something without leaving your house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, kind of bring us the next thing, which is if you're interested, we got a New Track special. So if you use the code when you register and just go here to the registration, you can use the QR code. You get a $10 discount. So you get it for $20. So I think this is the interesting thing is for $20, you kind of ask yourself what you get for $20 in the modeling world. And it's not very much. They get 3 days of being able to participate. But the really interesting thing is we're already over 50 attendees. If we can get this up to 200 or 300 attendees, I think you create a very different kind of event. And that was what we created in that, in the convention that we had back in 21, was people actually would feel like they were going somewhere. You're not going to watch somebody do a presentation on a video. You're going somewhere, you're moving around, you're meeting new people, you're talking, you're interacting and doing things. And we think that's, really important to go do this. I guess I'm going to go ahead and stop for a second. Any questions or comments from anyone on that? Did anyone go to the 2021 convention and kind of comment on it?
I did, Phil, and it was great. So being over here on the East Coast, the only problem was the last one ends at 9:40, and that's past my bedtime.
Yeah, I know you'll probably have to miss a few of those in late in the evenings, but you can get everything else.
Well, for the Bay area convention, those the clinics were recorded.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that was if you wanted to go to a breakout room, instead of going to a clinic, you could go to the breakout room, and when the breakout room left, later on you could go see the clinic. And I hope that happens again. And
all the clinics will be recorded and will be available during the convention and probably for some period of time after, weeks kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
all the ones that we're doing for the train show, they'll also run on New Tracks, but they'll run on New Tracks later this year, much later this year.
Yep.
I think it's a great opportunity. I attended the first one, and I had a great time. I didn't think I would when I signed up, but it really turned out great.
Yeah, it's this whole thing of, you go into this great hall and there's 15, just like we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
And if you look at this in gallery view and you can even throw the Pat, if you go to gallery view on your computer, you see everybody. So if you imagine this is the great hall and we're having a conversation just like we were having earlier before we started our meeting, and somebody says, hey, well, what about 3D printing? Somebody else says something else, and they say, hey, let's have a conversation. You can go to a breakout room and go have a conversation about it with 5 people. Yeah. And so it's no different than, being in a space where you talk to people, you interact with people, you can group with people. if there's a breakout room with Dennis and you saw Dennis's models and you're interested in talking to him about something, you can go jump in the room with Dennis and talk to him. If there's going to be one on dead rail, he's had some conversations on dead rail, and there'll be some interesting things on dead rail. So it's that idea that you're not going to watch something, you're going to participate. And I for twice for $20, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to make this inexpensive enough that virtually anybody could say, hey, it's worth doing. So anyway, any other comments or questions?
Well, from my standpoint, doing the train show part of this, I think it's important for the people that are going to be the presenters on the train show, representing their companies, to get the word out to their companies, so forth. They're going to have each one of these companies, and I'm really proud of all of them for wanting to do this and thank them so much. But each one of them is going to get 15 minutes to have a video that'll be shown during the physical convention and the virtual convention. And then they each one get a breakout room for an hour. So they've got, in effect, an hour and 15 minutes to promote their company and promote their products and talk to the other people about whatever questions they have on the instructions, on how to build them, on what they should do or how they should do it. So to me, it gives them a real opportunity. And that's why I think that we didn't have any trouble filling up the slots that were available for the convention, because the companies recognized the value. And I'm sorry that we couldn't get more companies to do this, because I think that the way that Phil has structured it, he has about as many companies as possible, given the time, and given each one of the companies as much capabilities as he possibly could. So I really appreciate the convention wanting to do this and being able, frankly, to showcase some of the companies that wouldn't be at the convention. I think there's only 2 companies, if I remember right, that are California based out of the ones that we have in the virtual train show. Yep. So all of them are from other parts that they're probably not going to travel to the convention to buy a table. So this way they get, in effect, an hour and 15-minute visibility at this convention in California, where they probably have customers, but they're not going to go and see them, except virtual.
No, exactly. So one thing I'd encourage you is, think about it. If you think it's interesting, don't just sign up to come. Talk to your friends. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. The thing that's interesting is, the thing to think about, it's not like coming to this meeting. This meeting is basically an input meeting for almost everybody. You're just getting input. Going to this convention, you can get there and you can talk to people. You can have interaction. You can come as a group and talk. You can, go somewhere to one of the breakouts of the group and have an interaction. If you have a question of someone about a specific topic. So I think the idea of having people there and having this community is something that is really important to try to see if we can recreate beyond what we did in 21, where it was only virtual. Can you do it? The other thing we are trying to do is break down the wall between the physical and virtual convention. So, for example, the train show stuff will be in the virtual clinic room. The virtual clinics will be over. What we're doing with the contests and with the prototypes is to try to make more of the physical convention come through to people virtually. But I'm just going to close with just a quick pitch that if in fact you are in any way thinking about traveling, it's going to be well worth coming to California. If you're thinking about going to a convention other than the national convention, or thought about doing something as a vacation, we're right in the middle of Silicon Valley. We literally are in what's called the Golden Triangle of Silicon Valley. But we got $139 room rate, which I can guarantee you, if you come to Silicon Valley in 4 years, you're going to be paying over $200 a night per room, if not $250. Rates are going to go up. If you come, you get to take advantage of all the things we're doing. And, we do have some amazing layout tours. We're up to about 40 layouts that are on tour. We have different tour days. And, as I think I've talked about some of you before, for example, Jack Burgess's layout, the Yosemite Valley, he's going to be taking it out in October. So that's almost I would say on the same level almost as John Allen in terms of the repute of kind of a real revolutionary layout. So I think, coming and seeing the layouts, going to the prototype tours would be great. So I'd just strongly encourage you, if you saw that QR code there, use the QR code, click on it. I'll put the link also in the chat. But just take a shot of that QR code and you can go there and sign up. And like I said, for $20, I don't think it's a lot. And if you get some friends to go, I think it could be a lot of fun. It's actually something you can do without getting on an airplane or driving in a car. Anyway, thank you, Jim. I'll throw it back to you.
Okay. Well, I really hope that everybody does try to go to it and participate, because it is something different. And if the PCR is successful with it, then it's very possible that other organizations may want to try the same thing. And naturally, from NewTrack's standpoint, when we used to do the train shows, and we did 4 before we stopped doing them, when we used to do them, the emails that I used to get back was that the viewers were finding out about manufacturers they'd never heard of before. They'd never seen their models before. So what it was doing was giving a view of what was available in the hobby to modelers who had no idea that the products were even out there, or the manufacturers were people that they could contact or how to contact. So it may well be that this turns out the same way. I hope so. And if this one is successful, I hope we can do more, because I do think that there is a real opportunity for virtual meetings. And I do think that may be part of the future of our hobby. And if we can do it with train shows and help the small, medium-sized manufacturers, then as far as I'm concerned, NewTrack's Modeling would like to do that. So with that said, I'll shut up. Phil, do we have the slide that we talked about, or should I wait till next week for that?
Wait until next week.
Okay. Then what I want to do now is tell you that we do have a scholarship program. We're looking for applicants. It's $2,000. We're offering 3 scholarships. And if you'll go to our website, you'll find out how to apply. And if you want to contribute for the future, you can make a donation for the future scholarships that we're going to be offering. We're really pleased that since the first year we started it last year, we were only able to raise $1,000 for 1 scholarship. This year we have 3 $2,000 scholarships. So I think that's a real indication of how the modeling community is going to support this program, and how it's really needed to try to help the young people in our hobby. The newsletter, you know about that. It comes out once a month. Subscribe to our website. You get it for free. We formed a new Facebook group, NewTrack's Modeling, to where we can go to that place. And if you want to continue any of the discussions that you see live on the shows. So with that said, I'd like to talk to about the My Build with Chris Course, who is the host for that segment. And that'll come up next week, February the 21st. Chris, welcome. Is Chris not with us?
I don't see him.
If we could put his email, please, in the chat function. Like I say, the next My Build is scheduled for February the 21st. And if you'll have a model you'd like to show off, or something that you'd like to tell us about, if you'll send a photo and a brief caption to Chris at his email address that will be put in the chat function for you, then he'll include you in the upcoming show. So really hope you'll participate in it, because we think it's a real valuable part of mentoring for everybody that would watch on the show. With that said, let's start the show for tonight. And the first segment that I'd like to talk about is in-scale modeling. And we have a great sponsor for this segment, National Capital Trains.
National Capital Trains is the largest supplier of N-scale modeling products in the state of Virginia. We have been in business since 1989. We carry a full line of modeling products, specializing in N and HON3 scales. We carry a large selection of competitively priced high-quality N-scale products from Atlas, Bachmann, Digitrax, Intermountain, Cato, Microtrains, NCE, Pico, Rapido, Soundtrax, as well as Brass. For foreign railroad train aficionados, we offer a wide selection of Japanese and European prototype trains. We are located 20 miles from Washington, D.C. in Springfield, Virginia. We are a short 7-minute drive off Interstate 95. Stop in and see us for the best in N-scale. We also have online ordering on our website, including great prices and expert advice. Call us for your N-scale modeling needs and advice. Use the QR code to visit our website. We look forward to serving you.
And the host for this segment is Clem Harris. Clem, as you know, works for one of the railroads and is not able to be here tonight, but he has provided us with a video for his segment. So if we could run that, Pat.
Hi guys, this is Clem Harris, your New Tracks modeling host for the N-scale modeling segment. Tonight I'd like to start a couple-part series with you, showing you how I change the number on a locomotive and do a few things to it to get exactly what I want, rather than use an off-the-shelf road number that everybody on the internet or at your local club may have. How I'm going to build an exact model of a locomotive that I found interesting recently. Many of you know, if you follow along in the hobby or participate in any rail fanning activities, that there's been a few locomotives that have had the noses repainted by an unknown artist, showing their history. In one case, one was painted for the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac. Another one, an old CSX Jeep, had the nose painted back to its chassis system glory. Being a West Coast modeler and somebody that models today in N-scale, we don't get to see that very often. And recently there was a BNSF SD70 Mac that went east on NS's property. And while it was back east, somebody added the BN logo back to the nose, the way the locomotive was originally delivered about approximately 30 years ago. So with that in mind, that's kind of caught my attention. I've had an extra SD70 Mac sitting around that I wanted to, I was saving for a rainy day, and I think it started raining today. So I'll walk you through the process of how I not only change the numbers to match the BNSF 9653 from a previous road number that was on it from Cato, but then I'll walk you through how I weather it so that I make it look as close as I can to its prototype appearance today. And then I'll show you how that I am able to add sound to this locomotive. And I'll do this over multiple segments for the next couple of months, and just show you the simplicity of which you can do a lot of things in N-scale. I know I'll probably catch a lot of flack for this. One of the things that I don't do, I don't add grab irons, and I don't add windshield wipers. For me, I'm kind of sometimes a little bit clumsy, a little bit ham-handed. And I also think that grab irons and some of those detail pieces, in addition to making the model a little bit more delicate, I have a hard time being a railroader looking at the nose of some of the models that are out there, and the grab irons look like to me, they appear like they stick out a lot farther than they really should. And this isn't meant to knock anybody that does add that stuff or wants to add that stuff, but for me personally, I focus my detail on light and sound, weathering, and then basic little things like you'll see in this model is properly equipped now to lead because it has positive train control and it has the antennas on the roof. And I'll add little basic things like that. But I also remember the perspective that I am working in a significantly smaller, with a significantly smaller model. And so the addition of the grab irons and stuff, like I said, it doesn't do it for me. With that in mind, let me start. We'll show you what I've been working on. You'll see over the course of my segment tonight, I'll walk you through how what I'm using to change the road number and remove Cato's graphics from the locomotive without actually stripping and entirely repainting the locomotive. And then you'll see, I'll give you a list of the products that I use and show you, just walk you through the process. And you'll see some of it there'll be interspersed with some little bit of me talking. Some of it because I had to condense down about an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of working on this model into a 15-minute segment. You'll see some of it is going to go via time lapse and be set up that way. Without any further ado, let's change the road number on this N-Scale Cato SD70 Mac to the BNSF 9653.
Hello?
Hi guys, after you saw that I masked off the model to protect some of the paint that I didn't want to damage, I'll walk you through actually applying the Mr. Color Thinner. You'll want to work with this in a very well ventilated area. It's got kind of a strong smell to it. You see I've just taken my micro brush and I've dipped it in the top of the bottle, and I'm just very gently going to put a little bit on here. You saw that in the pictures that I shared, I took and forced the edge of the tape down to hopefully help prevent some of the Mr. Color Thinner from running and impacting other areas that I don't want to damage the paint on. So I've applied just a little bit. You see that just a very gentle touch, and you see here it's starting to, the 5 is starting to run a little bit. So we'll just gently keep working at this. gently keep working at it, and you see the 5 is starting to go away now. Just real gentle. Because if you push, if you're a little too rough with it, you'll actually rub through the, in this case, it would be the cream color under the road number. So we just want to work at it real gentle. We just let that sit on there for just a second while I've been talking with you. And we'll just keep gently working this. I'm going to grab another couple of brushes out. And same thing, just a real dip that in and just knock the excess off. You see, I'm just very gently. No real pressure is being applied to the model. Just gently rubbing the micro brush across the shell as I work here. So I'm just working at the last little bits of getting the edges around the top and the bottom parts of the numbers. Just gently working through the detail that's on the model shell. So you see now as you look at this, it's pretty much gone. So now I'm just going back and just very gently wiping the excess off. And this time I didn't add any Mr. Color Thinner to my brush. And I'm just gently rubbing, just gently working that. And there, as you can see, the number's just about gone. And I'll do just, I'm gonna let this sit for just a minute and dry. And then I'm gonna go back and knock the little bit of the, I'll change the perspective on my camera here briefly so you can see it a little bit better. But there's a little bit of the green from the numbers that's left on the model. I'm gonna give that just a minute to dry. And when I come back, I'll show you that how I just, again, gently work to finish taking that green off the cream color. Well, guys, what did you think? You got a quick overview tonight of just walking through the process of removing Cato's graphics from this SD70 Mac. And then you saw where I started getting the decals laid down to make it now represent the BNSF 9653. Along with that, again, you saw that process sped up. That was about an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of time, and just working at things, taking my time. I wanted to make sure everybody saw the list of what I used today. That Mr. Color Thinner is an amazing product. Cato, I saw that on their website a bunch of years ago, and Cato recommends that to be able to renumber any of their locomotives or any of their equipment. I do want to add one word of caution as you use the Mr. Color Thinner. Few years ago, I tried it on a Scale Trains product, and it ate the paint all the way around the numbers that I was trying to remove, and it did not remove the numbers. And so that made kind of a mess. I had to go back and try and patch the paint on that locomotive and make it, put it back into its proper appearance after trying to renumber it. It was a little bit frustrating. The suggestion I would offer that is if you want to try this Mr. Color Thinner, obviously you've seen it works very well on a Cato product, but before you use it on anything else, you may want to try it on the inside of the shell. Try it on something that is not as important as maybe one of your high dollar models. And you'll see too with some models, while I didn't touch on it in my video presentation this evening, you'll see that sometimes using a toothpick or using a little bit of Solvaset, Microsol or Solvaset product over a little piece of paper towel and let it soak. Sometimes that'll actually help remove numbers and graphics. You didn't get to see quite all the decals added to the locomotive tonight, but enough to get the point across of what's going on. In the next segment, I'll sit down and I'll walk you through how I weather the BNSF 9653 so that it has the appearance of what it does today, while it briefly had the BN logo applied to its nose. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Clem. We really do appreciate it. We were supposedly having David Schultz, the O-Scale segment on this evening. David is in Arizona on vacation, and he had sent a video for us to play tonight. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. We can't figure out how to open it, so we can't do the O-Scale segment tonight, but we'll try to get it in as soon as we possibly can and make sure that this... I'm sorry?
I was watching the video thing here.
Oh, okay. And try to make sure that the problem with the opening the videos doesn't happen again. Well, now I'd like to introduce Dennis Brennan, who is building a diorama and using some of his products in the construction of it, primarily his ballast products. So Dennis, welcome. You're muted, Dennis.
How's that?
Kick the ball, drag Dennis.
You can hear me now?
Kick the ball, drag Dennis.
I'm good now, right?
Kick the ball, drag Dennis. Yes, sir.
Kick the ball, drag. Okay. All right. I am here in a hotel room in sunny Florida, working on a layout. And so I thought we'll just carry on. It doesn't make any difference where I'm coming from. So we've been talking about, for the last few weeks, this is ostensibly about my ballast product, Brennan's Better Ballast, and some of the scenery stuff that I have. And I started that out, and we will get there right now. I'm going to share the screen here, and we're going to go right here, I hope. Here we go. This is
Don't
what
see anything
started.
yet.
Pardon me?
We don't see it.
Oh, you're not seeing it. All right. Let's see if I can make
You had
Right.
it.
Why are we not seeing it?
Share screen.
Yeah, I did, but I thought I did. All right, hold on. Let me get back there. That's not it. Sorry, guys.
You had
Technical.
it before.
I know I had it. Let's just let me get out of here. Let me get out of here. Just got to get back to where I was. That's not it. Oh, I'm
Well, with Dennis, while you and Pat try to figure out where we're going, let me go to Alfonso Moreno for his SpaceX Dragon spaceship in 1/4 inch scale. Alfonso, thank
Dennis
you
has
so
got it.
I got it.
Oh.
Sorry. Can we go?
Okay. It's
Sorry.
okay.
All right, guys.
Alfonso, I don't know what to do. Dennis, go ahead and finish yours. And
All right, I'm sorry.
I'll come to you. Go
It's
ahead.
okay. It's okay.
All right, I am, here's where we started. This was going to be all about ballasting, but I realized that you can't just talk about ballasting without talking about what goes underneath it and what the ballasting is all goes. So I built a diorama, and we've talked about how that diorama came, how I put it together. And so now we went from that to this. This is the final product, okay? Big difference. Started here, and now we end up here. And over the last few shows, I showed how we went from one place to another. Now we're finally going to talk about the ballast. Now, what you see along here is a combination of my yard ballast, which is a very dark ballast, and then what I call superior sand, which interestingly enough comes from Lake Superior. Big surprise. And it's really quite nice. But the whole idea behind this is, if you're going to go through all the trouble of ballasting, you need to have a good base for it. And it doesn't matter. People use foam, people use cork, people use all kinds of things. People use ceiling tiles. I happen to use foam, and foam works really well. This is pink construction foam. And then everything else just kind of flows from there. If you can give your scenery a little elevation anywhere, it's going to enhance the scene. And as you can see, I've got a lot of different levels here. I've got angles, I've got levels, I've got what I call street schmutz. I've got, I even have holes in the street where you can see the old cobblestone. All right, so this gives you a good close-up of the ballasting. Now, ballast is not a problem. It's not, some people make it into this big deal. It's really not. It's very simple. And what I did first was I laid down my yard ballast, which is this darker stuff that you see right here. Is this thing turning pink like you're seeing, like I'm seeing on my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why that's happening. I'm sorry about that.
It's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Forgive me, guys. I am so sorry. Anyway.
All right.
The very dark stuff is the yard ballast. And what I did is, if you use the yard ballast by itself, that's fine. But I don't like to do that because it's too monotonous. I mean, that's fine, but you need to give it a little pop. And so what you see alongside the yard ballast is the superior sand. That's all those other little kind of colors that you're seeing in there. And then there's really fine particles. I have two kinds of superior sand. One is coarse and one is fine. And the fine stuff you see, I sprinkle that around, and it's random. You can see how random this is. I think that looks really natural, especially for a siding. This is a siding. Sidings are usually not ballasted and kept up like mainline. Why? Because they don't have the traffic going over them, and the traffic that does go over them is pretty slow. So this one actually is not bad compared to some sidings. And then how do you transition? Okay, I don't like to see a straight, solid line of ballast. There's always a transition area between the ballast and the scenery alongside of it. And that's where I use a lot of the superior sand. And you can see it makes a really nice transition. It kind of looks, you know, even on a main line, you may have a little bit more even line of ballast, but there is still that transition area before you get to greenery. Even if the greenery comes up to the tracks, there's still got to be this little area like I have here. Okay, here's another view. Now what you're seeing here, I didn't show it before, and I'm not going to show you the whole building. This is a new kit that I'll be coming out with. I've incorporated, that's why I built this diorama. I built it just for this kit. It's going to be used as for the ad. But you can see when you're doing scenery, it's not just about ballasting. And then you can see how the ballast I've allowed, because this is a hill, I've allowed the ballast to kind of fall down the hill alongside that little retaining wall. And that's an HO scale retaining wall, but it really doesn't matter. If somebody comes to the layout or to your layout and starts measuring things, tell them to go away because it looks good. It looks right to my eyes. And so I'm fine with it. And you can see the greenery. All I did was mix a lot of different colors and shades and stuff. There's all kind of, it sort of works together. It's random. Try to be random. The more colors and textures you can add that are within the same range. Now you don't want to go from, you know, like bright reds in there. You might have a few little dots or pops of other colors, like where there were some flowers, but try to keep everything in sort of a range of colors in the same palette. And I think what I have here does that very well. And of course, you can also see that there's, I start with brown paint, and then I work up and do the scenery in layers. You can always add more. Less is more. Start with one layer and then just keep building on top of it. That's what I do. I think that works really well, as you can see here. And you can see also in the street, the kind of schmutz that you see around the street, that's called street schmutz. I sell it. It works great. And all I did to get the cobblestone effect was I just laid down a few pieces of like cobblestone. It was a plastic sheet that was in my junk box, and I put that down, and you saw that before. And then I just the street is actually made with Durham's water putty, I skim coated everything with that. Okay, here's another view of the ballast along the tracks. Again, it's yard ballast and superior sand coarse and the superior sand fine. Now, as far as the technique and what you use for glue, that's real simple. I use 1 part white glue and 2 parts water, regular Elmer's white glue and water. And I do not use an eyedropper. Eyedroppers are good for HO and maybe N scale, but in O scale, I think that's kind of tedious and it takes too long. I use a squeeze bottle. Think of a ketchup or a mustard kind of container that you get at the local grocery store for picnics. They might hold about a pint of material, maybe a little more, 12 ounces. I mix up the stuff in a gallon container, and then I just pour it into the squeeze bottle as I need it. And that works real great. But the first step is wet water. What's wet water? I'm sure a lot of you guys know what that is. But for anybody who doesn't, it's simply a few drops of dish detergent like Dawn in 16 ounces of water or so. The amount isn't critical. Some people like to use alcohol. You can do that too. Alcohol works well. Some people use actually, I didn't have any dish detergent at the time when I was doing this. So I had a bottle of Windex and I sprayed the track with Windex. And what you do that before you do your glue mixture, and that breaks down the surface tension of the glue. If you don't do that, if you don't use wet water, you're not going to have a good ballast adhesion. And I'm sure you've seen it where it looks good, but if you touch the ballast, it crumbles. And the reason it crumbles is because somebody didn't use enough wet water. And what happens then is the ballast kind of puddles up and it'll eventually sink in, but it doesn't permeate the ballast. It only goes on the top. So it looks good, but if you touch it, it's going to crumble and it's all soft inside. I've seen that lots of times. So it's kind of a wet process. And that's just the way it is. Don't be afraid of it. Just do it. All right, here's another view. Again, I'm showing, if you don't have greenery, a lot of the greenery will keep in real life, keeps things from going down the hill. But where there isn't any greenery and where there's a logical place, you can see where the ballast and the dirt wants to wash down around the retaining wall, between the retaining wall and that stone wall. And I use the stone wall a little bit, and that retaining wall just breaks everything up. The more textures and things that you can add to your scenery, the better it's going to look.
Dennis, I hate to do this, but I gotta see you're almost out of time.
All right. Well, this is where it ended up. And if there's any questions, just feel free to email me or give me a shout on the phone. I'm available.
Dennis, I think it came out great, and I really do appreciate you doing this. I hope everybody learned something about ballasting track, because I think that's so important to our modeling, and I can't thank you enough for doing it.
Hey, no problem. I hope it was enjoyable, and I'll see you next time.
That's great. Thank you so much.
All right.
Now,
Bye. Bye, guys.
Dennis, let me ask you a question. Do you need another segment next time to finish the diorama?
No, I think if you felt like it was, good, I think that worked for me.
That worked for me too. And
Okay.
if anybody has any questions, they can always contact me. So thanks so much, Dennis. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Glad to do it. See you guys.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yep.
Well, Alfonso, now I want to turn to you and your spaceship in card. cardstock, paper stock in 1/4" scale. So welcome.
Thank you again, Jim. Good night. Good evening, gentlemen. So we'll complete the assembly of this Crew Dragon capsule by adding the trunk. This is my last presentation. Trunk is usually, it carries cargo to the space station. But when this version is being launched, the crewed version, it doesn't carry cargo. Just for safety reasons, they don't want to put the cargo. There is another version, which is the Cargo Dragon version. And this is for you to see the difference between the O scale and the 100 scale. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. In this case, this Cargo Dragon carries a payload to, or spare part to the space station. So that's just an example. So let me share my screen now, and I'm gonna show you how to put together the trunk. I'm gonna share my screen. Starting broadcast. Okay, and let me get my PowerPoint. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna complete the trunk assembly. There are two main parts, actually, an outer skin here and the inner skin. On my first presentation, I mentioned about techniques and tools to use, so everything applies here. These two parts should be curved accordingly. Here is on the left here, this is the outer skin. I already added the connecting tab here. And on the right, it's already curved. I usually put a little clamp here, helping me to glue that seam line. Here it is, the inner skin that already curved, and it will be inserted here inside the trunk. So there are some features that need to match before gluing them. And I'm talking about on the exterior, this little porthole is an umbilical connector in the real vehicle that is connecting a line with the launch tower. And inside the vehicle is this image that needs to match the one outside. So once we line up those two images, then we can start gluing. And here it is, the inside of the trunk already. It's highly detailed. This is based on real photos. There's a lot of connecting lines and electrical connections, all just like what the photos show. So now we're going to use this part, and this disc here that you see here will be considered that it will be the top of the trunk or the ceiling. And it has some coordinates, the Z and the Y axis. Those have to also be aligned. Now here, this part, let me see, this little part here is going to be covering this gap. And on the back, we can start putting the magnet. And if you remember my second presentation of the assembly of the capsule, I did put a magnet on the heat shield. And the heat shield that is the bottom of the capsule will actually connect with this piece here. This piece here is just to cover the magnet. Here it is. I'm aligning the the Z1 minus Z1 with the first fin. This trunk has 4 fins on the exterior, so it's aligned with number 1. Here you could see how the ceiling has been installed according with all the coordinates that need to match. This is how it looks from the top. And now we're going to show you, I'm going to show you how to assemble the connecting arm that goes in the trunk. Pretty straightforward. You need tools to score all these lines here. And because this connecting arm will attach to the outside of the capsule, I have to put a magnet here, and this magnet will attach to a similar magnet on the capsule. Here it is. The umbilical arm is being glued to the exterior of the trunk. And here, this is what I was talking about. The capsule has a similar image of the umbilical facet that it's here on the connecting arm. So both have magnets. The outer part of the trunk has 4 fins. And here is just demonstrating how to make one of such fins. After scoring accordingly on these vertical lines here, we put together, we glue it, both edges, and this is how it should look from the bottom or from the top. It's a triangular shape that is glued in this section here. There's no room to make a mistake because all these fins have a number that will match with similar numbers outside the trunk. As I'm showing here, the fin number 1 will be glued in this area with a number 1 shown. Here is the back of the trunk that is black. It's actually solar panels. So half of the trunk has the aft portion is full of solar panels here. And on the front, as you can see, it's just plain metal of the vehicle. One missing piece to complete each fin is this triangular area where you will need to glue the top of the fin. An extra detail added to the outside of the trunk is to add this little detail on top of the umbilical access hatch or port. It gives some texture. To complete the capsule, there are 2 rings that are glued together, which is here on the left, and that will be glued to the bottom edge of the capsule. This is how it will look, how it looks. Pretty neat. The base that I made just to display the model, pretty straightforward how to assemble it. It's an octagon. And here it is, the complete model with the capsule, with the nose cone, with the trunk. This is another view from the top showing the docking mechanism. View from the bottom side showing all the inside of the trunk. There are the 4 fins. All views of the Crew Dragon. And you may wonder, how is this going to dock to the space station? So here it is. This is my 1/100th scale International Space Station that I made in paper. And you could see the little Crew Dragon dock here to the front of the station. This is how it docks. If you have never seen how the International Space Station looks like, it's like this. This is about the size of a football field, you know. This is the American section, the Russian section in the back, all the truss here on the top that holds the solar panels. Here we have a Japanese section, European section, and there are other ports all over the station where visiting vehicles, not only the Crew Dragon, but other vehicles from Russia can dock to. Here's a closer view of the actual place area where the Crew Dragon always docks to. This is the front view, the front port, and there's another on the top. So there could be 2 Crew Dragons docked at the same time. Another view here from the front, seeing the inside of the capsule, the trunk. Another view. So pretty much that's what I wanted to share. Let me just share with you. And just to, and here it is. Oh, let me see. You see me? Yeah. Just to have a sense of scale, comparing the 2 versions of the Crew Dragon. This is the Crew Dragon, and this is the Cargo Dragon. Notice that it doesn't have windows, and the fire and the Draco thrusters are covered. The difference is the one carries a payload, the other does not. Comparing the size with the older Apollo capsule, you can see the size, more or like the same size. And here is a new Orion capsule that is much bigger than an Apollo capsule. And here is a Russian Soyuz, and comparing to the Crew Dragon. Why I show this is just because for you to have an idea what are the visiting vehicles that go to the space station. And right now, US, as this is the only way to access space to go to bring astronauts to the space station through SpaceX and NASA. This is the Crew Dragon. This is the only one. Orion will be next. It's going to be launched at the end of this year, taking astronauts just to fly around the moon. Pretty much that's it. I still have 1 more minute. I know I have my topic has been about space related vehicles, but I want to share something with you guys. And now you cannot say that I didn't talk about trains. I'm going to share. Let me see. I'm going to share a little video that I came across. Let me see my screen again. It's just 1 minute video you will like. It's about a steamboat, a steam engine train, miniature. Look at that. I like it so much that I'm like wanting to know more about a steam engine. It's so powerful that it's pulling these guys in. I mean, look at that. It uses coal. Have you seen anything like that, guys? Look at that.
Looks like a cold ride.
Yeah. There's a bunch of videos about this, but I'm now really fascinated about learning more about this locomotive train, and how it works. So there it is. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my presentation, and I had a good time showing all this, and feel very happy to have been part of this project.
Well, I appreciate so much you doing this, Alfonso. I think you've gotten an awful lot of views and a lot of people who were interested in what you're doing, because you do modeling in a slightly different way than most of us have been doing it in the past. And as we talked earlier, if you decide to design a car maybe that can move one of your SpaceX modules around, let me know. I'd love to have you come back and show us how to put it on our railroads.
Sure, Jim. Yes, I'll let you know. I'm going to start planning that.
Thank you so much, Alfonso. You have a great
Thank you,
day.
guys. Bye.
Well, now I want to introduce Ran and Seth Johnson, who own Crystal River Products. And I think you're really going to be impressed with them and their products and their company. They're going to be starting a build along of one of their models on the show on March the 6th. And so this is their opportunity to kind of introduce themselves to everybody who may not have known them in the past, and to show you the model that they're going to be building on the show. So Ran, Seth, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. This is Seth. You just get me tonight. My dad is off doing his day job, and he had a late meeting and couldn't join this one, but here I am. I'm coming to you live from a Walmart parking lot on the way to a family event in a different part of my state here. So the quality of the presentation may be a little lacking today. I promise it'll be better for the build along. But let me show you a couple things. I just prepared a brief introduction to who we are as an organization and maybe who we are as people a little bit to give you some background there. 1 second, and I will share. All right, so you are seeing Zoom now. In a minute, you're going to see a presentation, I hope. All right, how are we doing? Are we seeing anything yet? I know it's loading. Give it a second. May or may not be worth it. Please hold. Your call will be answered in the order it was received. Still waiting. Give me just 1 second. There we go. Well, that's the last slide of the presentation. That's less than helpful. Let's go back to the beginning, shall we? Yeah. All right. I work in technology. You'd think this would work better for me. Guys, this is just a testament. You can be in tech support. You can be a software person. You still have problems. Hi, here we are. We're Crystal River Products. So this is us. That's my dad, Rand. My name is Seth. We have a strict 4-letter name policy in our company, so that if you're mad at us, 4-letter words just come naturally. The two of us have known each other for a long time, as you might imagine. He's known me almost as long as I've known him. We live in Utah. He's in a town called Tooele. I'm in the Salt Lake Valley. We have really enjoyed, as a family for generations, actually, trains of all sorts. My great-grandfather was a yard master for the Santa Fe in Los Angeles in the 19-teens. His son, my grandfather, lived in the Los Angeles area and was a train enthusiast. Rode it to catch a ship to war and rode it home, rode the streetcar home from the port coming back after the war. And his son, my father, just took to trains naturally. It took me a little while longer. I thought I might be interested in some other things, but around the age of 12 or 13, I got into the proper road of things and enjoyed trains as well. You see on the right side, one of my sons. I have a great number of sons, and I had any hopes that one of them at least would catch the bug. They haven't yet. We're working on that. But we love narrow gauge trains, especially. And we spent some quality time in Colorado, family trips. My dad, myself, and one of my sons go, and we make it a special one-on-one time for that grandson. You can probably tell by the subject matter, or those of you that are familiar with the area, we love the Rio Grande Southern. And we have visited and walked most of the route that's publicly accessible. There's a large chunk of that line that is on private land owned by a certain fashion line designer from somewhere that won't let people traipse across his land. But other than that, we have walked, I think, most of it and taken some fun photos and really enjoyed that as a bonding experience. Just a beautiful part of the world. If you haven't been to that area and you have a chance, you should go. It's a little bit strenuous sometimes to cover that turf, but well worth it. And if you don't want to get out and hike around it, at least drive through it. It's well worth your while. Crystal River Products is a company. It was created by Tom Fitzgerald many years ago. I want to say 25 years ago. Man's a craftsman, fantastic engineer and a designer of kits. We bought the business in about 2018. I'll get into that a little bit more in a minute. We operate it, my dad and I, as a bit of a side hustle right now. It is not a business that is scaled to provide for even one family, let alone two, but we very much enjoy it. We do our real jobs during the day, and then we sort of play with this business at night. We provide a high level of customer service, but it's all done in the evening hours. So if you try to reach out to us by phone during the day, you may end up leaving a message, but we'll reach back out to you. We will get back to you when the sun sets and we're off work. We bought it from Tom, who'd done it for so many years and done it so well. When we went to visit his workshop and sort of spec the business before buying it, I saw something I hadn't seen in about 20 years, and that was his computer. And the laser was of a similar vintage. And he knew how to operate that thing really well. The problem was that he didn't want to sell that stuff, and I couldn't buy another computer, whether I wanted to or not, that could run his old software. So it took us several years to convert the plans from the format that his coal-burning computer liked into one that I could get a computer to run. So that was the first year or so. And then we started producing a couple of kits, and we've been bringing them online a few at a time as we've gone along. We now have about 25% of the original full catalog up in production, and we're going to bring the rest along one at a time. It's just a matter of finding the time to translate the plans and get it ready to produce. So much more to come. So why'd we do it? We loved his kits. So I think both of us had been his customers before. And my dad reached out to him one time and said, "Hey, I need this structure in O scale. Can you do it?" And he's like, "Well, no, actually, I'm shutting the business down." I said, "No." And it just happened that I'd been through a successful kind of little exit in the business I was working for at the time. And we had a little bit of opportunity and a little bit of capital, and we were able to secure the business from him. He was kind enough to entrust us with the legacy of his hard work. We love the compelling prototypes that he models. They're largely Colorado narrow gauge related structures, and the remarkable craftsmanship of those kits. And I'll talk just a little bit more about that later, but it's all due to his work and his brilliance. We also wanted to support the industry. I guess on the younger end, I suppose, I think of myself as an old guy, but younger end of maybe the active participants in our hobby. And I want this opportunity to be available, these kits and these opportunities to model things well into the future. And supporting this little business and keeping it open and keeping its products available was one way I could do that, I thought. And then we just sort of wanted to do a business together. It's fun to work with family. It can be hard to work with family too, but because it's a side hustle and it's not something that we're depending on to keep the lights on, I think a lot of the stress that you might see in reality television shows about families that run businesses together has not been present for us. We've just enjoyed being around each other and having a thing to keep us working along the same lines in a hobby that we both love. So the line itself, I'll just say a couple of things about that. I mentioned before, they're Colorado narrow gauge prototypes. I'll run you through a gallery in a minute of the kits that we offer. I'd say they are true craftsman kits, but they're accessible. They are, I'd say, something that anyone with a reasonable level of modeling skill can build. And at the end, you've got something that looks pretty remarkable and makes you look like a modeling genius, but didn't take all that kind of skill. I say that from a personal point of view because I'm not a very good modeler. I would rate my skills as being mediocre at best, but I can successfully execute our kits because in part, Tom designed a lot of super clever jigs You don't need 7 hands and, you know, a space alien to help you build these things. You just need your own 2 hands and some basic tools and the very clever kind of cardstock jigs that Tom includes in the kits, designed in the kits, that hold everything together and make sure everything's lined up. Some really thoughtful design there. And it's not like my first experience with a Craftsman kit was as a 12 or 13-year-old, and I bought a Campbell kit. I love Campbell kits. It's fantastic. As a 12 or 13-year-old, I was never going to make that work. I was so excited. I opened the box, took out the instructions, and I saw beneath a pile of what looked like flattened toothpicks. And I put the instructions back in and closed the box and never went back to it. But I could maybe handle it now. But this is attractive to us, or was attractive to us, as something to pick up and continue because the kits are so well designed. And really anyone can pull them off. Here's just a quick view of our line, the kits that we have available today. We offer the Advanced Junction Coal Pocket from the Rio Grande Southern in HO, S, and O scales. We offer the Rio Grande and Rio Grande Southern common design 50,000 gallon water tanks. You can see that the one on the left is the hexagonal roof, sorry, and the one on the octagonal roof, and the one on the right is the round roof, more typical of the RGS. Then we have the 2-stall engine house, neat little kit, quite large in O scale. Most things in O scale are large, as it turns out, but HO and S available for that kit as well. We also offer this very clever little stock chute. You look at that and you say, oh my, like that's got to be a total pain in the neck. Nope, that is about, even for me, and I've told you before what I think of my modeling skills, that's about a 3 or 4 night build, a couple hours a night, allowing some time outside of the clock there for things to dry. And it just looks so impressive, and you can, you know, sort of, you know, flex on your friends a little bit there, but it's not that hard to build. We have the full stock yard, which includes the chute and then the fencing and the rails that go along with it to make the complete yard. This one's my favorite, I think. Ore pocket and tram house. It represents the structures that stood at Primos and Omega on the RGS. I think this one is actually more Primos than Omega, but I'm sorry, I may be squinting at it wrong. I've got my reading glasses on, but it's not working with this little screen. But it's a neat little build. Again, one that looks just immensely complex, but falls right together for you. And you can make it into an excellent little line side structure. And then the last one I'll mention today is the small coal shed. And the reason I put it last is because this is the kit that we'd like to use for the build along. It is really small. In HO scale, it's like you can almost set this thing on a postage stamp. No, it's a little bigger than that, but it's got a remarkable amount of detail for the size. And you can build it in a couple of different ways. If you color it as on the left, you're going to have something that people look at and say, oh, Rio Grande or RGS, like that typical painting scheme that they used on their line side structures. People will look at that and think RGS or Rio Grande. Or if you don't model those prototypes and you just want a nice little structure with a lot of intricate detail, you can leave it bare and stain it, or color it any other color you like, and it fits in pretty much anywhere. The outside framing makes it visually arresting. I really like the detail in the door. So you've got these little sort of fish bone, herringbone structures that go on the inside of the door, and you can slide in as many little individual slats as you'd like. The practice in prototype was to load some coal into the shed and put a board in to hold it in with the door open. And then you load some more in and you put another board in as you need to. And you could have the boards quite high up if the shed is nearly full, or you could have most of the boards removed if the shed was empty or near empty. And that detail, when replicated in HO scale, is just pretty impressive. But it's really easy to do. You've got a single part there that we have laser cut. You can stick that to the inside of each door, and it looks like you are a modeling genius, which is the intent. You also notice that we have, oops, sorry, go back a little bit. We've got a couple of roof treatments possible. The one I'll be doing for the build along is with shingles, but the one on the left, probably more typical of the Colorado railroads, was the tar paper roof, but you could do it either way. So our website is crystalriverproducts.com. QR code included there for your convenience. I didn't have one in the presentation until I saw the first 2 or 3 presentations do it, and I thought that is outstanding, and went and grabbed one and threw it into the deck here. So take a screenshot of that if you'd like, or just go to crystalriverproducts.com. The other reason I picked the coal shed is it's our least expensive kit. And on top of that, we have a 20% discount available for watchers of this show. Jim, I think we put that in the video description, or I can distributed elsewhere for this group to pick up. But if you'd like to build along, that's great. If you'd like to just watch us build it, that's fantastic. We do have the other models available on our website as well. But it's been great to spend a little time with you tonight, Jim, and audience, and we're looking forward to the build along starting in a few weeks here. Thanks for giving us a chance to introduce ourselves.
Anybody have any questions for Seth?
Jim, this is Jeff Jordan. I'll offer an unsolicited testimonial. As you may recall earlier, or last year, I showed the Vance Junction kit, which I built in O scale, and it is a fabulous kit. The detail is amazing. And as you said, take your time, use those terrific cardboard jigs, and it makes complex assembly go together well. Spend some time staining and painting, and I have a model on my layout that I'm really proud of.
Jeff, thank you.
That's great testimonial, Jeff. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions? And Seth, yes, we will have this on our website. We also will have it in our newsletter. Like you say, I think the QR code is a great idea. But if you have not built one of the company's products, this is an opportunity for you to do that. Most importantly, this is an opportunity for you to have your own private mentor build the same kit that you're going to be buying and building. If you run into any questions or things that you want to discuss about it, the person that you need to talk to will be on the show, and you can log in and talk to them while they build theirs and you're building yours. So Seth, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it. And we're looking forward to starting this on our March 6th show. Seth, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, with that said, I want to turn to Tom Farrell, who tonight is starting a different scene on his model railroad. This is going to take a while to get completed, but this is going to be the first segment of it. So Tom, welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me again. Actually, the next go around will be the new scene. This is finishing up the shanty town.
Okay, my mistake. I'm sorry.
I didn't send you a thing. My mistake, actually. So anyway, this evening, I'm getting very close to finishing the shanty town. There actually might be one more segment, maybe not 4, but certainly 3. I would like to show you a little overview this evening of a flyover shot of Shantytown. I rarely take these pictures because I like them taken as if you're standing by the actual scene, and it looks more realistic. But this is a bird's eye view of Shantytown and the fishing village that I've been working on since this past summer. So I'm going to go through here real quick where these buildings are, because over the past, I don't know, 8-9 months, you've seen me build these one at a time. I'm going to just go through them in their location, and then I'm going to show you how I build these shanties here this evening. So this whole area is in a 24 by 48 section of my layout. To the right is the John Allen Engine House. To the left is a town of Turtle Creek, which is largely unfinished. I'm not going in the order that I built these, but number 1 there in the bottom left-hand corner was the Professor's Bait Shop. You may recall that looked like that. I did that in November of this past year. Number 2, this was the first shanty that I built, Skipper's Bait Shop. That is this one, and it's all super detailed. What I mean by super detailed is all these accessories and things hanging on it. Makes for a really realistic scene. Number 3 is too fast there. Number 3 right here is Pat and Phyllis's Bait Shop, another one that I did in September of 23. Featuring a crane and a bunch of guys playing cards. They're all very unique, interesting structures. Number 4 in the bottom right is Thurston's Bait and Tackle. Again, it has all this detail. This is probably my favorite of the group. Just a neat little building that I scratch built. Everything you'll see this evening is more or less scratch built. That was July of 2023. Number 5 is we just featured last week. This is Jim's Seafood, and with the comical menu here. Number 6 is Gilligan's 3-hour tour bait shop. I think the more perceptive of you here figured out I named everything after Gilligan's Island. I take this hobby so serious. And this is an old structure that I've remodeled 3 times. So it's its third iteration. So this one's actually quite old. And this is just an overview of where they all are. So the professor's shop is here on the opposite side of the shore. Here's the Skippers, the first one I did, Pat and Phyllis's, Thurston's, Gilligan's, and then Jim's Seafood. This is that new structure I'm working on. We'll get to that in a minute. A long time ago, Jim asked me, exactly where is that dam that you made? Well, this is the other reason I'm doing this overview. The dam is hidden unless you look out around the covered railroad bridge, but that's the Salt Creek River Dam. I did that back in July 2023. It really came off as a concrete dam. Number 2 is my covered bridge. I did this a long time ago. This was done on my my old layout, and of course I saved it and moved it to the new layout. Number 3 is a Frenchman River Models rusted out hull. I did that in August of 2023. Number 4 is a crane skiff. I did the original as a Foss kit. Then I liked it so much that I scratch built my own, which I like to think is a little better than the kit. And I switched the lobster boat and this boat back and forth. I only have room for one or the other. And number 5 is the other Frenchman Rivers model that I did back in August, the fishing boat. It's right next to the Skippers in the harbor there. So there's the overview of the Salt Creek River Dam, the covered railroad bridge, the rusted hull, the crane skiff, and the fishing boat. And all it fits nicely in here. These are the 3 dilapidated houses that I'm working on. Been working on the middle one here this past week. I should have this finished up for the next show. These are the shanties. I'm going to show you how I built them this evening. And that's the outhouse. I'll show you. I'm just going to show you that up close. This is the outhouse you just saw pointed out. All this, like the shanties, are just made out of scrap wood from my scrap box, with the exception of the door. It's a Grant line. These are the paints that I use for these shanties this evening. It's just a kaleidoscope, a collage. I just randomly pulled down one color after another. You'll see how that works out. That's only for one model. This is the first shanty that I'm going to show. This is literally the cutout windows from that 3 dilapidated house project that I'm making right now. These are just scrap pieces of wood randomly glued together, and then a Grant line door glued right onto a piece of basswood. And then I paint them with that array of paints. See all those paints? They're there you go back here. So there it is. I did go back and touch it up, but see all the just circus of colors, right? But then when you weather it, I mean, look at the dramatic change, see? But you have these underlying colors, so you have variation. You know, the reds fade out, the yellows fade out, the blues fade out. And this is simply with alcohol wash and pan pastels, and then putting alcohol wash over the pan pastels, and you sort of create this paste. Here's another one. This is another finished shanty. Same technique though. This had those obnoxious bright colors all over it. And I put alcohol washes on it, and then pan pastels, and then a final wash. It just settles all these colors. Here's another shanty. This is a dual shanty. It has two different shanties sharing a single wall. Again, these are just random pieces of wood, strip wood, and just little pieces of stuff that I never managed to throw away, but I put in a box. I just pulled it out. You're looking at the front, the side, the other side, and the rear. Anybody can do this. This is just scrap pieces of wood. There's an up close. Just scrap wood. There's the roof. These are coffee stirrers here. Just cut the length. Look at that change. And again, it's these wild colors, and just toned down with alcohol washes, pan pastels, sort of gray it out, you know? I mean, that looks pretty much like a shanty to me. And, you know, it costs nothing. It costs a Grant Line door. That's all it costs. Those are coffee stirrers there.
I love your roofs. The roofs, I think, make the buildings.
I did do a check of Shantytown, this section, and then to the right where the John, there's not a single roof here that has the same, that's identical. They're all different.
Yeah.
And since that's when you walk into the layout, that's the first thing you see of the rooftops. There's not one like, and that's for me. So that's what I have for you this evening. I went fast because I think we're running a little late here tonight. Does anybody have any questions on any of this?
See, they look dilapidated. The roofs really do. I mean, it's not just the paint, it's the way you can see there. Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's magnificent.
It's just scrap materials, but it's this is the one that's pretty neat. Just
yep.
Those are just coffee stirrers, artfully dyed with a variety of hunter line washes in this case. So that's a brand. I think I have six bottles, and I just randomly apply them in different ways. And this is a nice little effect here on the edges. I hit it with a darker color to get this bleed, and a lot of this is just happy accidents. And but this one as well turned, I mean, these were originally very bright yellow, very bright green, very, gray, blue, just crazy wild colors. And then a liberal application of pan pastels, and a follow-up with a 100-line wash, and it gives you this grayish washout with these subtle undertones. So it's not just gray, there's different colors in here. And it looks even more impressive in person than the photograph. But it's making for a very nice shanty town.
Impressive. It really is. That's gorgeous modeling.
Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Tom?
We'll see you next week with part 3.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, we ended up a little earlier than I anticipated for this evening.
Oh.
But I thank everybody for coming. And we have our caboose for the closeout of our show. And before we actually sign off tonight, I do want to make one announcement. My wife is going in to have some shoulder surgery day after tomorrow. And I'm going to try to be here next week, but I may not be. And if I'm not, Phil Edholm has kindly agreed to take over the host role for next week. So I look forward to seeing you, if not next week, week after. Happy modeling.